Good morning, everyone. Now I am going to discuss the topic the directive principles of state policy of the Indian Constitution. One of the most important features of our Indian Constitution is the directive principles of state policy. The framers of the Indian Constitution borrowed the idea of the directive principles of state policy from the Irish Constitution. Directive Principles of State Policy is a set of lists that guide the policies of the country. It is a supplementary part of our fundamental rights because our fundamental rights lays the foundation of civil liberty and the political democracy in India, and directive principles of state policies lays the foundation of social and economic democracy in India. These principles reflects the aims and objectives of the entire Indian political system. These principles aim to achieve the goal of welfare polity in India, characterized by social justice, political justice, and economic justice. If the directive principles of state policies are properly implemented, then India can achieve Gandhi's dream of welfare state. One of the most important features of directive principle of state policy is that these are not enforceable like the fundamental rights. Our fundamental rights are enforceable. This means justiciable. That is why if anyone interfere in our fundamental rights, then we can face the Supreme Court under Article 32 and 200 under Article 226 we can face the High Court for the protection of our fundamental rights. But in the case of directive principle of state policies, we cannot face the court for its implementation. But this does not mean that directive principles are unimportant. Under Article 37, these principles are also fundamental in the governance of the country. The states should apply this principle in the making of the laws. The directive principles of state policies are mainly mentioned in Chapter 4 of the Indian Constitution from Article 36 to 51. These principles are not systematically arranged in our Constitution, but as various scholars, for their convenience, they classified the directive principles into various categories. Now, I try to discuss the directive principles of state policies of our Indian Constitution. There are certain social principles by which the state tries to provide adequate means of livelihood to all the citizens. This state tries to provide equal pay for equal work, both men and women. The state tries to prevent the concentration of wealth in the hand of few people. It tries to protect the children and youth from exploitation, both moral and material. It tries to guarantee the people of India the right to work, the right to education, a just condition of work. It tries to provide women the maternity leave. It also tries to secure for the workers the right in the management of the industries. There are certain directive principles which are mainly related to Gandhi's philosophy, in which it tries to promote cottage industries, both individual and cooperative basis. It tries to foster Panchayati Raj system and to endue it with adequate authorities. It tries to provide educational and economic facilities to the weaker section of the societies, and it also tries to bring about the prohibition of consumption of intoxicating drugs which are harmful to the people. Then there are certain liberal principles. This state tries to promote uniform civil code in India. It tries to separate judiciary from the executive. It tries to promote free and compulsory education below the age of 14 years. It also tries free and compulsory, and it also free compulsory education. Next, there are certain principles which tries to protect the environment, mainly forest and wildlife. It also tries to protect the monuments which have historical and holistic importance. There are certain directive principles which are mainly related to international relations, and these are mainly mentioned in Article 51. Under this principle, India always tries to maintain peace and peaceful relation with foreign countries. It also tries to foster respect to international law. It also tries to settle the international disputes by arbitration. Under 42 Amendment in 1976 and 44 Amendment 1979, certain new directive principles are also included in our country. Directive principles are very important for our country. That's why Dr. K.C. Markand once said, if a chapter of fundamental right is essential for a modern democratic state with a written constitution, then a chapter of directive principle of state policy is also necessary for a welfare state with a written constitution. Uh, mm, Next, most of the directive principles are implemented. Some critics also criticize the directive principles of state policies. And next, we will discuss the other topics. Thank you.